All right. So right now I'm gonna go over final render settings. Okay. So um, well, before I even do that, just make sure that your model, right, that you get a good view of it, and you'll be rendering out a couple of sequences, just a couple. Where, for example, this one and this. All right, just 4 frames. So 4 frames at about what, 8 minutes of render. So that's about between 30 and 45 minutes, give or take, right? Between 8 to 10 minutes of render for full HD and high render quality settings, right? Okay, so you got front, quarter, side, complete back, cute character. All right, and I'll show how to set that up as well. It's not gonna be too bad. But before we get there, crack open your render settings. And so you got two choices. You get either render in CPU or GPU, right? So GPU will be faster, um, but the lighting might be a little bit duller. I mentioned about the difference between CPU and GPU. You might want to, you know, give it a comparison side by side, you know. And so first, let's go do the CPU, right? The one that we're all been doing all this time. So let's say CPU right now. For CPU, the render quality settings you want it to be, um, I guess 7 is good. You could difference between 7 and so 10 is like not bad, like pretty darn crisp. 7 is, it's a safe bet, and in between that, it's not much of a well, there's subtle differences as you escalate it up. So if you got time to kill, if you're a perfectionist, you can go for 10. And you could expect the render times to increase by about maybe additional 3 minutes more per render. I'm guessing about 3 minutes more per render, maybe 4 minutes more per render. And that is with a CPU. Okay. So if you set to 10, you could, like I said, expect about between 3 to 4 minutes more per image render. Okay, compared to 7, right? Compared to 7 to 10. So if setting at 7, maybe the render might take, I don't know, 8 minutes. But if you set it to 10, maybe that one single render may end up being, I don't know, 12 minutes, give or take, depending on the CPU. It's just a rough estimate. But I'm just telling you what to expect between 7 and 10. And at 7, um, you know, most of the noise and artifacts, will be gone, and it won't be as blurry, right? And it's more crisp. But at 10, it'll be pretty darn crisp. Okay, so then all this other stuff, just leave it alone. Just leave it alone unless you got some crazy scene going on with a lot of materials and stuff, a lot of shiny stuff. So leave all this alone. Next, ray depth. Just set to 2 and 2. If you have no shiny stuff, and you know what, just leave it to 2 and 2. Right? Diffuse and specular, leave it alone. Just leave it at that. 2 and 2. I will be expecting this. And I will be expecting at least 7, between 7 and 10 when you send me your source file. Next. Imagers, right? Make sure to have your denoiser optics, right? I repeat, denoiser optics, right? Not this one, not that one. Optics, optics, optics. Then you have your lens effects. That one, make sure to dial it in, right? Don't just turn it on and just leave it. Dial it, and don't just use my settings. Each scene will be slightly different or moderately different, you know, because you'll be juggling between the lens effects and its threshold and its strength, right? How much of a hotspot light bloom it will create, and if you can manage it with the render of the lights, so you're going back and forth to balance it. Then there's your exposure, right? Maybe setting it to like between around here, between 1.1, 0.2, 0.3, give or take, around there ish. You have to experiment, and then your color correct. That's your call. But for sure, I want these in there. I will check for that. And then for these guys, all you gotta do is just exposure and color correct. You go into your add imagers tab, right? Your render settings. Your render settings is right here, this guy right there, right? Your Arnold tab and imagers, and you just add your exposure and you add your color correct. And then from there you just dial. There's one dial here, couple of dials here for the main, couple of dials for the shadows if you choose to mess around, and midtones if you choose to mess around, highlights if you choose to mess around. But for sure, at least the main, kind of experiment. And this does not increase the render time. It will update in real time. So there's no reason not to. All right, so this, and this. Have those. All right, next. Under your comment tab, right? You're gonna go, for example, file name. And, you could put like your name underscore I don't know, organic model. Yeah. So you notice here, this, I don't know what the default setting is. Maybe it was set to EXR default. Regardless, just set it to PNG. Just set it to PNG. For now, don't set it to TIFF. Don't ask me why or EXR. Just set it to PNG. It won't blow up on you. Format set to 16. Alright, this is it just makes for better quality. Like, yeah, I'm just going to say that this best good quality in terms of the colors and color range and all that stuff. If you want to know more about it, just ask me in class. Next, color space. Make sure this is set to view transform. Use view transform. It might be set to default as output. Set it to view transform. Right. Next. This one. Set to name dot, as in period dot, right? Number, right? Hashtag looking thing, dot extension. Name dot number dot extension. This one, third one, right here. This one. Okay. Frame padding. Yeah, I don't know if it's set to 3 or 4 by default, right? Just make sure it's more than 2, right? Default might be 3 or 4, one of those. Frame range. You're gonna set to 4 frames, like I mentioned in here. Renderable camera, depending on the camera that you chose. Like me, I just chose a perspective because it's just just keeping it simple. But usually you would have a rendable camera. I want to keep it simple because I got how many students? Just keeping it simple, right? If you have a different camera that you chose, make sure to choose it. Okay? Make sure you know which camera it is and you choose your rendable camera. Very important. Image size HD 1080. Boom. And that's it. Yeah. And then on our renderer, we got that stuff. Next, let's see if you chose GPU, right? To do your final render. GPU. Right? Then you turn this on. You make sure this is highlighted. And this is referring to specifically the computers at the school. If you have your own personal computer, you need to check to see if you have a graphics card to use, right? So you choose GPU, check on, and highlight this, and then go back to your Arnold render. All these will be grayed out. You want to set this to at least 10, probably 15, right? Yeah, 15. 10 is like mid. Oof. 10 is mid range. 3 is like super fast. And 10 is like I said, kind of sort of mid range. 15 is probably pretty darn decent from what I can remember. In terms of like how crisp the textures and wrinkles will look like. And then advanced, no. Rate depth, same thing, 2 and 2. Imager, same thing. And that's it. So you do that setup, right? Then hit close. Then, also make sure if you have everything on layers, make sure they're all, turned on and visible. As invisible, V as invisibility is on. And then make sure you don't have your isolate select on, right? In case you're hiding something. Make sure everything that you need to be rendered is not grayed out like this, right? Make sure everything's on. And then you're gonna set this to rendering. And then you're gonna go to render sequence option box. We're not gonna deal with batch render, right? Render sequence, keep it super simple. All right, so right here, 1 through 4, because it knows under the common tab, remember, I had it set to start frame 1 and frame 4, right? So it knows. See, and then your camera, set it to whichever camera you have. I set it to perspective because I want to keep it simple, right? Super important. And then you're gonna do where you're gonna output it to, this part. Super important. Now you can choose. You can just go, keep it simple and on the desktop, right? Make a folder and write down like your name or and then organic model, final render, something like that. I don't know, just something that you know what it is. And then you hit select, right? I just put the desktop, boom. And then you hit render sequence. And when you do the render sequence, which I'm not gonna do it because it's gonna corrupt my recording, right? When you hit render sequence or even this, whichever, this window will pop up again, right? Something like this window, either the Arnold render window or the other Maya default render view, but probably this one. And it's gonna start rendering, in real time. And then it'll go up to 4 frames and it'll stop. And then you look for your folder and you'll notice it all in there. And that's it. Yeah. Right. So, and the other thing I want to mention is make sure that your asset, right? For example, that's grouped, right? And it's you know, more or less damn it, that it's, you know, straight in the middle, including your platform, right? Don't do things like where it's like this or kind of slightly off, you know, don't do that, right? Dead center in the middle as best as you can. You can check here. You can also check here. God damn. You know, and use your grid. And if you notice my handles, if I press the plus sign, see how it's straight in the middle, right? Even in here, see, and then especially the character. See, especially the character I had set up right here. See, he's almost right in the middle. You know, you have to kind of make sure, right? And my grouping I had set up so that it's the main group, okay, and it's dead centered, right? You know, the way you move it is by pressing D. Remember I taught you guys, press D, right? Right now I got a whole bunch of rotations going on, so I can't really show a good demo. Yeah, and then inside of that I have my lily pad, or AKA the platform, and then next to it as its own little subgroup, right? Again, you just make the group by pressing Control G. You grab all the stuff and you do Control G, and you made a group. It was complicated, but it's not, right? And I named it just the character, him, right? I just want to keep it clean on its own, right? You know, if you choose to do so, you could just have, you know, just one group, have all of this under here, and not have a subgroup. But I just wanted to do this, you know. And the reason why too is, you know, how to explain it? Because I already did this, so I had to undo everything. Yeah, but you know, because I wanted the character to be its own little container, right? Group, right? And that I can place it wherever I want, and it's not bound to the platform, you know. So let's say, I'm gonna delete all that, you know. So let's say you have the lily pad, right? And I centered it as best as I could. Ooh. See, even with the lily pad, I could. Oh, I'm not gonna mess with it. But the just this guy, right? You know, if with that being on its own group, you know, and he's got a whole bunch of stuff. He's got eyeballs, crown, cape, all that stuff. And you know, it's just better to just have it in its own group, so I can just move and place it wherever the hell I want, separate from him. So you have some. It just provides you with freedom, you know, to place things. And then finally, this main group, which the main group will have the rotations and animation, and also make sure that everything in the transform is cleared out, like I mentioned before, cleared out, like the lily pad does not have. So I should clear it out. Modify, freeze transform, clear it out. Alright. And this history is just the UV maps. But you know, if you want, you could just go edit, delete by type history. Right? It's just UV maps, so it's not going to have anything that's going to blow up on you. And all these guys, see, they're all cleared out, so it's clean. Don't ask me why. So it has to do something with double transform, which I talked about numerous times, and I'm just sick and tired of talking about it. And over here, right? So you got your main group, hold to everything. Inside of that, I have my lily pad. I don't need to make a group for my lily pad. It's just one thing. This, for sure, I made a group because it has a whole bunch of stuff. So that's 20 minutes. Next, I'm gonna go back to the main group, and you just set up some animations, right? Make sure you have a bookmark. You know, I chose this as my main camera view, and I have this going on, which is through here. See this guy right here? I talked about this before. This should look gray, and this is the main framing thing. All right, you grab that, the main group. You start at 1. You know, you can you know, this may or may not be on yours. This is your auto keyframe. Red means it's hot and active. So I choose my camera shot that I like. You need to set a bookmark, which is this one right here, right? And I already have 2 bookmarks. Camera view 1, right? Camera view 2, okay? And you know, you select your main group and you hit S, as in Sam, to do a keyframe. Frick. Ugh. Why did it crash every time it crashes? Every time I set a keyframe, it crashes. Or whatever. And so you got that one keyframe, hit S, right? And you know, then you're gonna scrub to the next keyframe. You know, at 2. And then I'm gonna hit E as in Edward. I'm just gonna rotate a tad to get a quarter shot. You see how it automatically set a tick, a red tick, and it's red? That's because this is on. If it's not on, just hit S. So, and also if you want to go back and forth in your keys, it's your greater than and less than sign. All right, it's next to the M key, and in between the M key and the question mark key, right? Greater than and less than sign. Click back and forth. That's how you scrub individual frames, keyframes. Then the next keyframe, right? You can click here, and I'm gonna just rotate some more. Hit S if you want, just to make sure. Boom, boom. And then another keyframe. Like that. So 1, 2, maybe I'll turn it more if I want. I have auto keyframe on, you know. Or you could just hit S. Next one. Turn a bit more. The next one. Right? And that's pretty much it. You know, if you want, you could have 5 renders if you want, but I'm just showing, you know, to get boom, boom, boom. And that's pretty much it to do that setup for the spin. Just 4 shots. Yeah. Alright, so that's 24 minutes. And also, you know what, I'm just... Yeah, you know what, all the shadow stuff I went over, you know, so I don't want to do it again. Yeah. So that's your render settings. Alright, that's it. Bye.